case study is Beirut, my hometown, and Beirut, which is a cosmopolitan city, which actually was introduced at the beginning by my colleague Bumpon. Beirut is a cosmopolitan city. It's a city where most inhabitants are bilingual, if not trilingual. They speak Arabic, the native language, French, because Lebanon was a French mandate at the time, at some time before, and they speak also English. This slide shows you a bit like a sampling of a few signs on the streets of Beirut, and specifically in Hamra. So this is actually an answer to the questions that was before, that most of our signs are either in Arabic and French or Arabic and English, and there's a mix and match of a lot of typefaces. So it is very important to be able to matchmake the typefaces and to be able to have a harmonious feel between the typefaces. So I'll first try to show you the different signs that we see on the streets and the reason why we need to be able to matchmake and to put them together in a way where we can visualize a nicer, harmonious signage system. So the Beirut signs, we can see in those signs different categories. I sampled a lot of signs, took a lot of pictures, and was able to divide them into 4 main categories. In those signs, we can see in category 1, it's the mismatch of scripts. Category 2 is the treatment of Latin script, which is primary, and they use the Arabic as secondary because of the influence of the westernized advertisements and the universality of language. The third category is the scripts that have the same weight, so we can see a similar texture. And this is a semi-harmonious way of putting the signs together. And the final category is the customized by scripts. So they create the scripts together to give us a one homogeneous sign. We're going to start with the first category, which is the mismatch of scripts. And as we see here, in the Arabic script, it's very ornated and it has a lot of curves, whereas the Latin Roman script is more straight and geometrical. The second script, the second sign actually, shows us the 2 scripts that are very mismatched. And in this case, they're using the kashida, okay, which is an extension, but it doesn't look correct. The reason why they're using it, because if we remove this section here, the Arabic is going to look very compressed, okay? But there's a misuse of it. Another mismatch of scripts, the Arabic versus the Roman type. Now we get to the second category, which is the Latin script used as the primary script and the Arabic as secondary script. The Arabic in this case, we can feel as if it's just put there to prove that there's an Arabic script on the sign, and it looks really odd. So this is a store that sells Sony products, and the Arabic script is just treated randomly without even trying to match the typeface. Another example, which is also very common, is to use the Arabic as a logo mark, which also ornates the actual sign that is written in English, here Domtex, and those 2 marks here are written in Arabic, and it says Domtex in Arabic, but they're just an additive value to it. Another example where also the Arabic is just added, it has the same color, so at least you can say that they're part of one. But other than that, there's nothing that combines those 2 types together. We get to this third category, where here the scripts are used with the same weight. This gives us at least the feel that they are combined in a better way. So weight means here the thickness of the lines, okay? However, they're not thinking of the shapes or forms of the letter. Another example, which is a pharmacy sign, you can see that the weights are very close, and of course the color brings them together. The fourth category is to customize by scripts. So here they've worked the scripts together, and they have a modular system that is very close, and you have the same thickness and the same forms. Another example, which also have the counters that are very close in shape, though they're different sizes, but still they're close in shape. So they're bringing it together. And also the width and the thickness of strokes. So we have a variety of strokes of thick and thin, and you have the thick and thin in the Latin as well. Okay, so after seeing those signs, there's a challenge of combining those letters. Okay, there's a challenge of combining especially Latin and Arabic letter, and definitely in different scripts as well, but Arabic specifically has a challenge of direction. So there's the opposite reading direction, okay, which conflicts, so the type could be conflicting into each other. There's the distinct letter forms, and there's a difference in typographic guidelines that I will discuss later on. Arabic letters have 28 letters, and the Latin alphabet has 26 letters. I'm not going to go into the diacritics and the vocalization of Arabic because it adds more complexity to it. We're just going to go through the forms, the main forms. The reading direction of Latin goes from left to right. The Arabic is from right to left. The Arabic letters have different forms. In general, each letter has 3 to 4 forms. It all depends on its placement in the word. So as you can see here, the letters, when they're isolated, they have a shape. When they're initial in a word, they have a different shape. When they're in the middle of the word, they have an extension. And when they're at the end of the word, they also have an extension. And they all look different. So we have a variation of different forms. The Arabic letters have different guidelines than the Latin alphabet. Okay, the Arabic has a base of calligraphic base, and we have different calligraphic backgrounds, different ways of scripts. So we have here a few examples. We have the Kufi script, which is usually a geometrical script. We have the Nasakh script, which means the copy script that we use daily here. We have the Nasta'liq script, which is also called Farsi, and it has more of an inclination. We have the Ruqa script, which is a very condensed script. The Thuluth script, which is a very elongated script, and we see mostly on mosques and writings in mosques. And the Diwani scripts, which is a very ornated script, and there's more flexibility with the curves of it. So these scripts are based off the Arabic type. Here we're seeing the different typographic guidelines between Arabic and Latin. The Latin has, of course, the baseline, the descender, ascender, and the X height. Whereas in the Arabic, if we add ascender, descender, and X height, we're going to see too many lines in between because the letters are not aligned. They are rootly based on calligraphic background. So going back to logotype, there's a different way to start matching logos. And one step is to adapt different existing logotype. So at the Lebanese American University, one of the projects that I gave my students is basically to understand better the differences, is to start adapting an existing logotype. So they had to take a logo, in this case is Marlboro, and they had to do its adaptation in Arabic. In this case, what happens is that we are going to limit ourselves to Latin guidelines. So limiting ourselves to a baseline, an X height, an ascender, and an extra guideline for the Arabic to be able to have the proportions correct. Here we would see the adaptation of the similar modules that are used in Latin and integrated in the Arabic logotype. And we see that the counters and the curves and the elongated stems are similar. Other examples are a few other examples here. So you can see how the logos now are looking more, they're matching each other. They do not like clash with each other. Other adaptations. And it's obvious that the directions are opposite directions. After doing this exercise and getting more acquainted with the differences and how to be able to get closer to it, they had a project to do a bilingual display typeface. Bilingual display typeface, the need of it was basically Arabic fonts are very limited compared to the Latin fonts, so we're not able to find a lot of fonts that match each other. So one of the options was to create your own biscript and create the Latin and the Arabic at the same time with the same feel and having it very familiar with the similar modules. So they had to create this. And this was based on a very limited time, so they had 5 weeks to do this. They were not able to do the entire lowercase, uppercase, and all the Arabic letters. So the requirement was to do only the freestanding isolated Arabic letters and the lowercase Latin. Okay, this would give them a better idea of how to start designing. So to create a bilingual typeface, first we have to definitely understand the scripts, the structure, the weight, the texture, the guidelines, the proportions of the glyphs without distorting them, the anatomy of the letter, and to understand the modular design. So here we have different examples. Okay. This example is a bond font, and it was created by Simah Boubati, a student of mine at LAU. She created this font out of trying to do connections. These fonts are all thematic fonts. They display typefaces. They cannot be used in a complex body text. So she created it, and it's all based on the same Latinized guidelines. When we create this kind of font, definitely we're going to lose a lot of the curvature and the calligraphic feel of the Arabic font, but it keeps us closer in a way to be able to make them together. Another example is Stroke, which was also based on the theme of hair. So it has a lot of curve in it and the extensions of hair. And the modules, we would see them, those kind of modules are created in certain places in the letters. Another example is the Huddle typeface. And this was based on the shavings of pencils. So the modules that were created, we had a stem and we had the counters that were close and replaced the same in Arabic and Latin. So we can see the similarities, in the guideline, and we can see the thickness of the letters to be similar. Tokia is another type that was also designed by a student, and the module is basically, the main module is basically the letter O, and we can see this, the counter is repeated in the same letters. This type has also the unit that has the same width. So the main unit is comprised within a box. And the same goes for the Arabic type. This is also another modular typeface where we can read it in Latin, Dana Abdul Ghani, and in Arabic. Another thing to keep in mind, which I mentioned before, is the Arabic type also is more condensed in width. So we can see the difference here where the Latin takes a wider space, the Arabic is more condensed. And the modules are colored in red, so we can see the similarities, and the terminals of letters are also identical. Vintage is also another type which deals with very thin stroke. It's a thin type that has also a decorative module that is added to different letters, but yet keeping the proportions of the letters. And if we look at them closely, these were two, when they were placed next to each other, they're very compatible and matched together. And they give us the brand that we would want. Another type, which is called abacus, and it also has a thick and thin strokes, and it has a very playful feeling with like the abacus where we have all these dots to count. And the lace typeface, which is based on laces, also has this thick strokes and the connector, the knots. So the knots are definitely present in the Arabic and in the Latin. And thank you.